Have that y'all really talked me up on that biography. So I'm gonna try. I'm not gonna live up to it. So just be prepared for that. Um, I am. My name's John Conits. I own Hare Fly Fishing. We're based out of Greenville, South Carolina. Um, we got South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee. Appreciate y'all having me out here. First time. Didn't realize y'all were such a big group. Um, just grateful to be here. It's gonna be a nice 2 hour ride home, but glad to be here. Um, so basically tonight we're just gonna kind of go over some basics. Y'all are welcome to interrupt me, throw a hand up. I'm very laid back. I'm not. This is all wing. I got a somewhat of a game plan here, but it's just not how I roll. Um, but basically, what we do, we kind of fish all the species in our area. We try to. I mean, I've been in business. I've been doing this 10 years. This is year 7 on my own. Used to work for another outfitter out of Brevard for a couple years, and basically started in 19 and been here since. Love what I do. I'm a teacher. We we're known for big fish. We're known for small fish. We're known for wild trout. We're known for a lot of different things. We're not a guide service that's specific to a thing. We like to fish a bite and we like to teach. There's nothing else there to it. I can tell you what I'm going to be doing January, February, March, April, May, throughout the whole year. So we're always chasing a bite, and when chasing a bite, it's real important. You get these things show up, and some of it's cliche. We hear the term reading water all the time. Maybe you'll learn something tonight. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's all familiar. Um, this just a picture in Pisgah National Forest. We do a lot of guiding there. A lot of wild brown trout, rainbows, native brook trout. This is in the headwatered area of the French Broad River. Um, Beautiful place. And what reading water kind of does, like I'm gonna kind of go through the slideshow, and y'all just swing away if you got any questions or interrupt, please. Um, so I like to read water the same everywhere I go. Like yesterday, I was striper fishing pretty much for 7 hours. In the first few hours, we had fish busting on the surface, which made it easy for us to spot those fish and just throw. Then comes the high sun. It was 86 degrees. I'm telling the clients, like, holy crap, I don't know what's going on. Give me a second. This is where reading water comes into play. You've got to be able to dissect the river no matter what the situation is. When I'm guiding or when I'm playing with my friends, it's the same thing. Number one is depth. And depth is a word that's used all the time with nymphing, with fish that are holding. But the problem with Google and AI and Facebook and YouTube doesn't tell you is the depth changes throughout the year. So when it's spring, a lot of people don't realize that mayflies they're hatching. Everyone knows there's a hatch going on, but they don't realize those mayflies are in the front of the fast water. They're not back where the big fish hold. They're not in the middle where the medium fish hold. They are in the front. When I say in the front, it's the white water right here. Like this is where mayflies live. This is where they live. And that's all that we need to know from here on out. And in the spring, we find fish very shallow. And the reason for that is mayflies have grown to a size where they are edible, right? They're actually becoming a predominant food source for the fish right now. So if I'm a trout, big or small, if I'm smart and I want to survive into the summer, I'm going to be very close to the top of the run. And that's all there is to it. A lot of people are like, oh, where'd you catch that big brown? Man, in a foot of water. And no one believes it, but it's very true. You just got to realize it's the time of year. 2 months ago, when it was 27 degrees every night and a high of 34, yes, your fish are deep on the bottom, and they're all side by side. They're competing with each other, fighting over food, and that's what we call a winter bite. Like, that's just what the deal is in the winter. You could fish the head of a run in the middle of winter, and you're going to be sitting there for a while. You know, nothing's going to be there. You know, oxygen, all that good stuff, it's there at the front, but really the head of a run next to what we call a ditch. And when you're looking at water as a whole, say it's 20 feet wide and it's a foot deep. Well, I'm looking for the spot that's 1 foot, 2 inches deep. The one spot that's just a little deeper than everything else. So I'm talking inches, right? We're not talking, oh, that's a deep hole, we need to fish it. We all know that part. But what we need to realize when reading the water, the depth's very important due to the time of the year, okay? And then there's another thing where a lot of people get to these wild trout streams or these areas where there's heavy pressure, and they're like, man, where are the fish? I haven't seen one, this and that. It's because we're stepping on them. That is why we don't see them, okay? I guide the Davidson River 7 days a week. I've been doing it for 10 years. And that's one of the rivers that I hear the most complaints about. And I'm going to explain something to you that's very simple. Blue herons, bald eagles, and otters cannot see fish in riffles, okay? The other thing, those fish are very educated. We all know this if you know about the Davidson. But this is where we take our first-time anglers. Okay, I'm kind of known to be kind of the guy that goes against the grain in the guide community. I've always have been. It's not something I live by. It's just the way I do things. When it's your first time fly fishing, I'm taking you to the Davidson River. And everyone looks at me, when all the guide community, they look at me like, dude, you're crazy. I'm like, no, I'm not. It's very easy to learn on that river if you can kind of pay attention to trout behavior. Now, what fish do in the depths, you know, spring, okay, we know they're going to be shallow because that's where food is, right? Food is shallow. Now, when you start getting in a low water summer situation, you need that oxygen. But people don't realize when the water is low, there's nowhere for a fish to hide but the fast water. So you could have a 18-inch fish sitting in an 18-inch wide area, like or 4-inch wide area by 18 inches. That's the only size it's got to be for that fish to be there. So when we think about depth, I try to tell people you need to really think outside the box. Don't look at a hole that's deep. You know, I guide the South Holston 4 days a week. Those fish sit super deep. It's 55 degrees every day though in that water. So those fish are they don't have to do, it's a tailwater. They don't have to do what we're used to seeing like over here in Pisgah, Wilson, Brevard, all these other areas where freestone rivers, they've had these changes that are constant. The South Holston is the same river every day. I rig the same rig, the same depth, because there's a dam there. But when we start guiding these freestones, these current speeds we're focusing on have to change throughout the season. You know, caddis is a big food source this time of year. We get a lot of high water events, okay? And all these caddis larvae, these stick caddis, there's a million caddises. I'm not a bug guy. I just kind of pay attention to what I'm seeing and what I've had experience with over the years. So when you get a high water event, everyone's like, you need to throw worms. Okay, I threw my worm, John. I didn't catch. I'm going to try not to cuss tonight. I promise you I'm not going to do it. Okay, I didn't catch anything on a worm. It's like, okay, but did you throw a mop fly? Did you throw a case caddis? Because what you need to realize is that the fly fishing world is based off of what he and she said, not off of what I saw with my own eyes. If I'm looking at the water and I'm noticing a very large number of stick caddis that everyone says they're October caddis, and they're right, they are October caddis. But guess what? Those bugs are out right now in the middle of the spring. Okay, so we got a real controversial issue here of what are they biting? Well, when I tell someone they're eating caddis, when the rain comes, it's like, man, you didn't throw a worm. Yes, I threw a worm. I'm a worm maniac. I love them. But the thing is, we've got to adjust to what's going on. So food source is one of those things. You've got to pay attention to what's going on in that system you're actually fishing. I'm not going to fish worms in a river that is full of rock, right? It's just, it doesn't make sense. There's too many rocks. What I am going to fish is a lot of caddis and a lot of stoneflies, right? Now, if that water's high enough to go up into the dirt and wash out worms, by God, 2 red worms and send it. I love nymphing. I love that shirt, by the way. Nymphing's probably my favorite way to fish. I'm a dry fly guy, streamer guy, but nymphing has a very, you're playing a game you can't really see. You're guessing. You know, it's all mind. You know, you look at something and you take an educated guess with nymphing. And we got to kind of realize that this time of year. You know, people are like, spring's the best time of year. They are very right. But the problem with spring is there's 5 to 10 bugs that are constantly coming off on a daily. Like, you go to the Davidson River tomorrow at 12 o'clock and you tell me what's hatching, because you're not going to say there's quill gordons. You're going to say there's quill gordons, this, stonefly, this. You're going to say 4 different insects. And what's funny is when those fish start rising, they're not all doing the same thing. Now, no fish is going to pass on a quill gordon. Anyone who knows our area should know that the quill gordon is the mother lode bug. It's the one that gets things really going. It's what gets fish to move to the front from that 4 to 8 feet. They move to that 2 feet. And the quill gordons, when they're hatching, if you pay attention to the way fish eat them, it's not a very, you know, when you see the YouTube videos, this slow, beautiful, just, you know, poetic way of sipping dries. The quill gordon is not that bug. Those fish kill that bug like a fish. They eat quill gordons. I really think that the reason our trout fishing is so good in the spring is because the quill gordon is like the gunshot. It's like, start your engines, take off, let's go. Like, that's what that bug does. So once the blue quills are our first bug this time of year, but they're just like another blue-wing olive that's a little bit bigger. But when the quill gordons start hatching, that's what gets our fish moving, actually moving to actually eat. You know, when they're eating blue wings and blue quills, they just sit still and come back. They'll move 6 feet to eat a quill gordon. Okay, so those are the things you got to kind of pay attention to when it comes to the food source. And then following these hatches is a task on its own. Like, what comes after the quill gordons? Well, you've got the March browns. That's another fast-moving size 10, size 14 mayfly. And March browns are one of those bugs that I see every year, but I don't see them in big numbers anywhere. I think it's a night bug, to be honest with you. I know they're there. I know the nymphs are always under the rocks, but after March browns, we have the Hendricksons. Probably my favorite hatch to fish. Those come off at night. The Hendrickson hatch is a really cool one because people hear about it, but they're leaving the river by the time those bugs are hatching. So what I do when I have time away from my kids and wife of 20 years, I leave Greenville at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I drive up to Pisgah, sit on the river, and if you pay attention, in probably mid-April, beginning of April to mid-April, you'll notice something. If you wait, the river kind of gets quiet around 5:30, 6 o'clock. Not with just people, but with birds. And what happens is those birds swoop down to the water. They crawl up on the banks, and they're hanging out. So there's 2 things waiting on there's 3 things waiting on the same thing. There's the angler, me, who just showed up to the river, cold beer in hand, got nothing to do, looking at these birds flying around, sitting. The trout won't bite a nymph. I'm sitting back, and then all of a sudden, the first Hendrickson comes down that riffle. this is where it's kind of cool. This is where people really need to go experience hatches, in my opinion, because if you haven't seen a Hendrickson hatch from like 7 to 8 at night, it's about 6:30 to 8 at night, depend if they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. The birds, the human, and the fish are literally there for the same exact reason, and it's that single mayfly. And the Hendrickson is a really special hatch, in my opinion, to experience as a fly fisherman. You can call that corny, whatever, but it's one of my little quiet times for me when I get to the river. That's a little side note, ramble, but something to pay attention to. Foam. Foam is home is another cliche thing, but what they don't tell you is you need to go fishing in the fall where everyone says, oh, the leaves. Okay, so pay attention now. This is a very good tip you really need to pay attention to. If you're ever struggling with a river and you know there's fish in it, go fish it in the fall and wait for the leaves to fall in the river. Okay, leaves are in the river. Can't get my flies down there. I'm hooking leaves every time. What you need to be doing, though, in that time during the fall is paying attention to where the majority of those leaves are floating underwater. And then start fishing that next spring, because that's where the bugs are. The foam is a very disguisable thing. There's 9 foams out there. What do you mean the foam is home? But what I do tell people is if you can, pay attention to where the leaves are in the fall and go back and fish it next year. Pay attention. This is stuff no one told me. This is just stuff I've learned over the years, right? And I don't think I've ever told anybody that in the public. Y'all might be the first ones. I don't know why I said it, but it's just coming out right now. So foam is home, but in my opinion, leaves are home. If you can pay attention in the fall where the majority, you just have like a line of leaves that are moving down that current that are a little bit thicker than everything else that's coming down, that's where the fish are holding. Just understand that. That's where they are going to get their food from year-round. If you're in a run where there's always that one run we know fish hold, but we never catch anything in. That may help you catch that fish. All right, now we got 2 different things here. We got high water, and if I'm going too fast, look, I'm telling you, just stop me. I'm a shooter, right? I keep going, and high water and low water, very different things. So I guide the tailwaters in East Tennessee a lot, okay? We deal with up and down fluctuation in the same day a lot of times. So when I'm on the Holston, I like to fish Middle River down to the lake a lot. That's kind of my home water. We get a lot of low water. And you got to kind of know where fish live first off, but you also got to understand how to cast. I think low water will teach you to go practice casting at home. Because if you don't know how to cast, you're going to have a hard time in low water. Just hands down, you can go high stick all you want, but some of these rivers will not allow that, and it's not meant for that. High sticking is a way to get through multiple currents, but when your fish are not holding in those currents, they're holding beyond that in some flat water. We got to be able to realize we need a 20-foot shot at least to get to these fish, but more importantly, we need a longer leader, we need a lighter line, and lighter flies. Sink rate is very important in low water. If you're fishing beads that are super big, and they're those big Euro nymph beads, if you're going to fish those, there's a time and a place. There's a million bead sizes for that reason. So like guys like me who are on the Holston a lot, we understand math and sink rates, because like when I hand my rod, before I hand a rod to my client, I drop my flies and I watch those flies. There's a certain speed I'm looking for, sink rate in low water. And I've got to pay attention to that stuff when I'm fishing low water. If you fish a fly, boom, right down to the bottom, and it's, man, John, I'm hung up every time. Well, I can promise you, you're fishing too heavy. You need to fish light. You need to let those flies suspend, And just understand that fishing low water is a very different ball game. It is not for everybody. It can be very frustrating, but it's very good for the angler to get better if you fish low water. I was stuck on the Davidson my first 3 or 4 years fishing, and I was like, if y'all know, the Davidson's always low. It's always clear. It's always hard. So I got stuck in that grind of like, how do I catch these damn fish without like spooking them all the time? And low water, if we can make a long leader and cast it, you can catch fish in any condition you want. We sight fish these big browns on the South Holston from May to October every day of the week, and they are sitting in the most gin clear water, guys. Like, we're not talking Pisgah National Forest clear, we're talking Aquafina. I'm looking at the trout 30 feet below the boat right now. And then you get the high water scenario. Now, this is a scenario that people are like, oh, the water's high, it's going to be good. It's going to be good if we know how to rig properly. Because high water is the same, you have the same problem you have in high water that you do low water. It's sink rate. So am I getting down fast enough now? Now I'm going the opposite direction. Is my leader short enough to turn over those heavy ASS flies, right? Like that, we're going, I'm telling you to be a delicate fly caster in low water. Now I'm telling you the opposite. When we're in high water, there is no, I'm going fly fishing this beautiful, you are throwing big weight, launching it. You're spin fishing with a fly rod in high water. Sorry to break it to you. Like, that's what you're doing. You're throwing big lead weights, tungsten beads. Like, you see my high water rig, it's like, damn, John, this thing's heavy. But it's not. You just lift the rod, push, it's nice and clean, give me a mend, keep on going. High water is easier to read the water, though. Okay, so when we're looking at a river like this is low water in Pisgah National Forest. There's 14 different spots a fish can hold. We can all pick them. When high water, you're going to look at a spot like this, and there's going to be like, man, there's only 2. Because all that water comes down at a very high rate of speed, and we're looking for something. What helps in high water that for me as a guide, is knowing where certain rocks are. When I say certain rocks the size of this TV. So, like the Watauga River, or, the Upper French Broad, or there's these big boulders that show up, and you see the rapids, and you're like, man, that water's way too fast. I can't get my fly through there. What we don't understand is the reason I'm adding my weight is to penetrate that first foot of current. So I've got to understand if I can, like this boulder here in the center, right? If that water's up 2 feet, those fish are literally behind that boulder. Now, what I've got to do is math in my head. I've got to be able to know, okay, I know there's a rock down there because I've been doing this for 15 years. The same rock is still there. So the fish also know that too. So I've got to rig up to a place where I can throw to that rock, get the flies down fast enough, because those fish are sitting behind that rock even though the current's very high. So that's where it can get a little complicated. But when you're looking at a river not like this and it's just raging, definitely your bank's going to be the easy one. But you can read the water better. You can find that slower water by those fish are going to push to the same area. They're going to get in closer and tighter. So that's why a lot of people like to fish high water. It's one of those things. Just understand that low water and high water, it's 2 totally opposites. You've got to be delicate and soft, and then you've got to be really just, man, that's a heavy rig, John. I know it is, Billy, but we got to keep on going. Just throw it in there. That's the reading water is so important, and you can go into, I can go into like 3 hours of this easily. Like, understanding that food source is the key to reading water. You've got to understand where the bugs are coming from and why, which bugs, yada, yada, yada. So a lot of us look at this water right here. This guy's name's Rob. He's an old tech guy, retired. He likes to fish a ton, but, you know, when Rob met me, he's been fishing a while, but his first choice is to throw just where it looks good, right? We all know water that looks good. Green, deep, beautiful, like, man, there's a big fish in there. But me, I like to feed the fish. And when I say feed the fish, I'm putting that fly up in that zone where the bugs are coming from and then going to the fish. What most anglers fail to realize is when there's a seam as long as this table, right? You're like, well, John, my bobber's landing in the middle and coming down. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're probably going to find the fish that's back here, right? But if I throw at the top of the table where the rocks, where it's shallow, I'm going to find the first fish. First fish is the most dominant fish, right? He's bullying everybody behind him. To catch the fish in the front of the seam, I've got to throw above that seam 9 times out of 10. This is where depth and all that stuff I just brought up, current speeds, makes sense because I can throw where I can high stick this table, right? I can put it in there, but if my bobber keeps landing here and just drifting here, I'm only covering half of that seam. If I don't land that fly up here on this table, here, get that fly down so it catches the fish right here. You've got to understand that. It's very important. I think that's where a lot of beginners really, really mess up. I really do. They don't understand it. I don't know why. They read the water. We can read that this is very slow, but what we can't read and understand is that up there that's raging is why those fish are here eating. We've got to put the fly where it's coming from. You've got to give them the natural presentation. When you hear that, that's what they're talking about. That YouTube will not give you that info. I've tried it for years. I've watched every YouTube video you can learn from, but it's just experience. I've noticed that feeding fish has a lot to do with the actual water that's in front of the fish. Not the first foot, but why is this fish holding here? It's nice and soft, but no one's telling you, hey man, there's 47 pea gravel size rocks with 975 mayflies in front of the fish, right? They're not telling you that. They're just telling you soft water, fish hold. We got to understand, throw that bad boy up into the Golden Corral buffet and send it down the line. And then you're in the zone. But that's kind of like reading water. Any questions? I feel like I'm zooming through it, but any questions? All right. Okay. Fish behavior, habitat. This is a cool one. This is the rabbit hole. It's one of those things you got to realize all fish are doing something. It's usually the same thing. So I always tell people, like, when they come fishing with me, it's like, some of the ladies are like, I don't want to hurt the fish. Well, you came here to hook them in the face for fun and release them. So send that excuse out the window. And then you have the other excuse of, I just want to catch a big one. You've never fished before, but we'll do what we can. There's always these expectations or assumptions. Fish do 2 things, people. They mate and they eat. There is no golf. There is no Netflix. There is no politics. They don't go to the mailbox full of bills every day and complain about their life. They literally survive, okay? And when we step into a fish's realm and start casting bobbers over their head, they're not like, oh, there's Hare's here, back again to try to hook us with his clients. When he sees that bobber, when they see that streamer, or when they see us and know we're there, you're changing the environment. You're not saying there's hare's ear fly fishing guiding again. What they're saying is there's a bald eagle over my head. When he sees a bobber over your head, when a fly sees your line, the shadow of your line from a dry fly, he does not say, that's mono, I'm rolling out. That fish says, that is death. That they have no, I don't care who it is. I've watched shadows of leaders go across limestone bottoms on some of those tailwaters, smallmouth, same way, like they can be really finicky, but they do not think like us. They do not sit there and be like, damn, here comes the anglers again with the same popper, the same quill gourd. They are literally saying, bald eagle, otter, death, I need to get the hell out of here. Fish mate, fish eat. That is it. There is nothing else. These fish are literally, if you watch the way the earth's made, and yeah, I go to church, but I cuss a lot. I do a lot of bad stuff. But like, if you watch what Hare did to our area, devastating, right? Devastating. But what we do not understand is that shit's been happening for thousands of years before we got here. If you look at what Hare uncovered, like on the lower French Broad River above Asheville, the old railroad bed, right? Old railroad bed is fully exposed. I've been guiding that river for almost 11 years for smallmouth bass. I didn't know there was a railroad there, right? I didn't know. And I don't think anybody that lives in Asheville knew there was a railroad bed there because it was built so long ago that it's been covered up by previous floods, and it was all grass bank and trees. The river resets. Fish reset. They all make it. Okay, I got the Nolichucky River. Well, is this going on? Okay. It's okay, whatever. So I don't want to be famous. I got the Nolichucky. Yes. Okay. Yep. That's right. Awesome. So I got the Nolichucky River. This is a real touchy river for me. It's home base for me. It's my pleasant place. It's a wild, scenic river. I see a lot of black bear, eagles, muskie, and smallmouth galore, and it's really cool. It's really dangerous, really whitewatery, but it's got some great dry fly fishing for smallies. But I saw these places reset, and I'm floating down the river that is unrecognizable to me last year. Okay? Me and my buddies were rowing our boats over a FedEx truck for 3 months before we realized it. We didn't know it was there. We did not know it was there. It was there, though, okay? What I realized is I was struggling on my angling. We were going in there, we were prospecting. We were like, damn, man, what happened to all the fish? Like, where'd they go? Like, did we lose some fish? Questioning some things. Like, and I know we did. But all of a sudden, man, like, fish started showing up like 3 months later. And these fish were not small ones, right? Like, that's a Nolichucky River fish right there on the left. That's smallmouth bass. That's an 18-inch fish. That fish is 15 years old-ish, right? Let's call it that. Okay, let's just be clear that that's a nice calm river behind it. It is completely, when I say 90 miles of that river looks completely different, it looks completely different. There is limestone that I've never seen. There's school bus-sized rocks that are not there. I don't know where they are. They're somewhere. But what I do know is that the fish made it. Okay? We heard all this bloody murder, poor everything. Okay, listen, guys. We cannot help what's happened, but we can move on. Okay? You keep fishing. Like, the fish they don't give a damn about any of y'all's remorse about the flood. Okay? They were there. They were there. Okay? They were there, and they're still there. The thing is, they've adapted. Okay, so when we step into a river, we have to do the same exact thing. We can't be like, man, I don't know where they're at. I've got to fish hard at the end of the day. I've got to be open-minded, and I've got to show up with an attitude of trying not to change the environment the fish are living in. This is how good anglers become better anglers. Now, I'm guiding the Nolichucky, and it looks the same. It's cool. It's all, I'm starting to learn, starting to memorize. Things are happening. What I've got to realize also is that this is a game we're playing when we step out into fly fishing. It's fun for us to actually go out there and problem solve. If it was easy, I mean, would y'all really be doing it? I mean, seriously, would you really? Like, what's easy is sitting at home. It really, like, that's what's easy. You know, I rigged 7 feet deep on an nymph rig and stuck a real big fish in a hole that I've never caught a fish in. Like, all these things happen for a reason. It's because we are adjusting and adapting to the river that day, evening, whatever. Now, weather. Huge, huge, huge deal. Now, I am that guy that shows up when it's bad, good, ugly, great. And I will say, yesterday is a prime example. I showed up. I think we put a dozen striper in the net before noon. And then the sun came up, and you would think I was the worst guide that ever walked that river. It was terrible. I was a superhero in the morning, and I looked like an idiot in the afternoon. Now, what I did do is I go back to the basics of reading water, trying to find fish, kept casting, kept changing, kept making the changes. But what I'm fighting there is high pressure. We had a storm come in the morning, really got the fish active. Then the sun just came out, boom, it was 85 degrees. My guys are like, man, it slowed down, didn't it, John? I'm like, buddy, I know it did. And I know in the back of my head that high pressure system came in. Those fish kind of went blind, and they sat on the bottom and didn't want nothing to do. Now, I've got to know that these things tend to happen no matter where I was. So I was striper fishing yesterday, but I guarantee you if I was on a trout stream yesterday, those trout would have been doing the same thing. High pressure is one of those things we can't avoid. Rainstorms, before the storm, awesome bite going to happen. During the storm, it can be so-so depending on who you ask. I like it. After the storm, can be a little weird. Earthquakes, like you ever see on the news, like there's like a 1.3 magnitude. Like those earthquakes we don't feel, right? If you ever, pay attention to that if you're ever fishing. We have these weird, we're on a major fault line in our zone, and we get these weird earthquakes that show up that are very light. Like we don't feel it, nothing shakes. But you know who does feel it? Those guys. Those fish feel weird vibrations underground no matter what we think or not. That lateral line, this is, you can call it God, you can call it whatever you want to call it. These fish are developed to pick up these things. They are very in tune with nature. We are not, because our brains are outsmarting ourselves, and we think, all right, we're going to get out there, we're going to get after it no matter what. And that's kind of what keeps us driven. Fish, they're not driven. This is just like a normal day for them. Like, oh man, we're going to eat today, but I'm not doing nothing after this. And that's kind of what they do. It's very normal. So pay attention to earthquakes if you do one day. Just kind of a little funny tip. I mean, I heard this from a guide years ago, and I found it to be true about 2 years ago. Water clarity, big deal. I'm a big fan of gin clear water. I like the fishing to be hard for me personally. I'm a very firm believer that gin clear water is the best water to fish for me. Now, if we want to catch fish, we need a little bit of change. I like 4 to 5 feet of visibility. 4 to 5 feet of visibility in any water, body of water you fish, you're probably going to get bit a lot more. Now, when it's 1 to 2 feet of visibility, this is where you better know where the fish live. Because if you don't know in 1 to 2 foot of visibility, you will go home empty-handed. I promise you, I don't care who you are, you have got to be able to put flies in fish's faces in 1 to 2 feet of visibility. Or you better take a jerk bait and a spin rod and jerk that thing across the river with a lot of noise. That's the only, I'm telling you, with fly fishing in mud, it doesn't go hand in hand. Now, peacock bass fishing in the Amazon and all that good stuff, yeah, you can do those, but those guys are fishing big poppers that are making an absolute massive noise on the surface to get those fish's attention in the mud. So when it's muddy, not recommended to go fishing really. I mean, I'm not a big fan of fishing. Like, I can catch 100 smallmouth in a single sitting on an 8-hour day when the water's clear. And there's 8,000 of those a mile in the French Broad, or the Nolichucky, or the Pigeon River in Tennessee. But if you give me mud in the places I know best, I'm gonna catch 2 smallmouth that day. And I'm being dead serious. Like, I can only catch maybe 2 fish if it's mud on a place that I know very well. Smallmouth do not like the mud. Now, your striper and muskie, they are about that life. They enjoy it. They enjoy it. If you can fish a big enough fly to a striper or a muskie or a bait, you're going to catch those fish in the mud. Trout, good luck. I mean, you can do what you want. There's silver beads, copper beads. There's, every tungsten bead has its place, right? Like fish see color a different way than we do when it goes to a certain depth. Copper beads tend to fish well in dirty water. Silver beads can sometimes fish well, but I find that copper bead tends to be a good, water clarity. That's a big deal. Just understand that predators are in the mud hunting, and your normal fish are just literally, like, they probably ate, and they're probably like hiding from the predators in the mud. So water clarity is a big deal. If you want to catch a big brown trout, I'm always tell you, come fish clear water with me. We can go watch them and sight fish them, and it's awesome. Or we can go streamer fish real high, dirty water. There's all kinds of ways to adapt to this stuff, right? It's cut me off if I'm run over tonight too. Forage, understanding what the fish are biting, what river they're in, why do muskie live here and not here, right? Well, why do striper come here and not here? Why do brown trout, why are the big browns downriver and not upriver? If you ever notice, guys, like, same thing kind of happens everywhere we go. The lower in the river, the bigger the fish. The higher in the river, the more fish. It's a very common trait. A lot of it can have to do with bait fish. Okay, number one, bait fish like warm water. All right, they move to the cold water, but they do like the warm water. So bait fish are going to typically hold in the warmer part of the river. Everyone's like, oh, it's too hot to fish for trout. Just to be clear, the biggest fish I know of are in the hottest water of the year. I don't know why, but you can watch a 30-inch brown sit in 68-degree water. Don't fish to them for sure, but just understand that fish is down there for a reason. Okay? Yes, they will move up and migrate, but understand that fish are going to be around the forage. They're going to be around what they want. Rainbow trout. We call the rainbow the psycho, right? Like, rainbows are very smart in some places, but man, they are very dominant in other places. They really take over. They get in the middle of the run next to those big browns and could care less about a brown. They are not scared, right? They get in that fast water, and they're going to feed off those bugs and get what they need. Forage is a big deal when trying to figure out what you're fishing for. Striper, good luck. Oh, this is a striper hole? Yeah, it's a striper hold when they're not feeding. When a striper is feeding, that fish could be from here to the parking lot, right? He could be a very long way away. So on the tailwaters and in South Carolina in particular, I guide this river. It's about 30 miles long, and basically, I never catch fish in the same hole ever when I'm striper fishing. I'm always catching those fish in some areas that are similar, but that fish is on the move the whole entire time. There's no like, hey guys, striper, 2 feet of water, dirty water, fish a bait. That's the answer. Not the answer. The answer to catching these fish is committing to the fish you're actually fishing for. So when I'm striper fishing, people understand that, hey, we're fishing every nook and cranny for the next 7 miles. Not because I don't know where they live, it's because I don't know where they are, right? I know where they live. They live in the lake. They come up the river. They sit in a deep hole when the water's off. When the water's on, it is chow time. Those fish go from sitting in 7 feet deep of water to that deep. Now, I've caught a lot of 40-pound striper in Tennessee. I've never caught one in water deeper than this. I row my boat over them when I'm trout fishing with clients. I'm like, hey guys, look below you. And there's 40 striper under the boat, about 8 foot deep, in low water. But when they cut that water on, it's a whole nother animal. So when it all depends on the species. Muskie, holy crap. Muskie is literally so if you ever see a muskie, go 100 yards up or 100 yards down. Just understand, you're not going to see that muskie in the same spot you saw him, but he's going to be very close to it. That's one of those fish that I call they're residents, but they also have that move in them where, hey, we can move 17 miles to spawn, but hey, I live here 9 months out of the year. And they're going to be in that zone, smallmouth, good luck. Then you're never going to catch the same smallmouth. If you do, you're fishing a very small river you don't need to tell anybody about. Where I'm fishing smallmouth, these fish are migratory. They're moving with the moon phase. They're moving with crayfish. They're moving with bait. The caddis. Smallmouth eat mayflies, nymphs, midges. They eat all kind of stuff, So it's just, you got to kind of figure out what's going on with smallmouth. They're a migratory fish. You're never going to have something dialed in. You're only going to have information you've been collecting over the years and able to try to attack it every time you hit the water. Brown trout, simple fish to understand. They got their home. They sit in their home. They do 2 things. They feed or they don't. I call brown trout like my wife. My wife, one day, wants to go get a milkshake, a double cheeseburger, add bacon, large fry. Boom, you got it, girl. We're going to Wendy's. Hook you up. Next day, I want a salad, grilled chicken, no dressing. Okay, I'm fasting today. Okay, you got it, girl. Whatever. I don't know what the heck you want, but it's a brown trout's very moody. It doesn't really have these. Now, if you entice that fish, what I mean by entice it, if there's a bunch of bait in that system, yes, I can pretty much tell you what the browns are going to do for you that day. Now, there could be a blue-wing olive hatch that's by the thousands going down the river. And you could see your blue-wing olives, going next to that brown trout. You know what that brown trout will eat during a blue-wing olive hatch? A damn egg. A worm. A midge. It's not going to eat the blue-wing olive. It's one of those fish you've got to play a psychological game with. So every fish they have their little things they do, but you're playing the same game with every fish. You just got to know what fish you're fishing for, right? Rainbows, very smart fish at times. Most of the time, not so much. They're just there to eat. They die very fast. They live very fast, right? they're a fast fish. They don't stop. Browns make it because they're lazy. They sit back, they absorb all the protein. Rainbows, they're like a drug addict. They are very young, very strong, and then next thing you know, they're broke, dead, and homeless, right? That's a rainbow trout, right? That's a rainbow trout. Brown trout, very different. Brook trout, absolute thrashers, right? When you start messing with natives like brook trout, I couldn't even tell you. I don't know what those fish are thinking. All I know is they like to eat everything. But I do know this. If you're not a damn ninja, you'll never catch a brook trout. Brook trout are one of those fish that, like, I got a nephew that moved in with me in October, started fly fishing. He's got this obsession with brook trout. I can brook trout fish for about an hour. And then I'm like, all right, I'm good, right? Like, caught a few, I'm good. I'd rather just walk the river, right? My nephew got this obsession with brook trout, and we were talking. He's learning to be a guide right now. I'm training him. He's literally been fly fishing for 6 months, gotten really good, and he's been high sticking, all the pocket water in the bigger rivers, right? He's like, man, I couldn't high stick the brook trout. No, I said, look, man, you're not going to go in a brook trout stream and high stick. You might be able to find a couple spots that you can high stick, but you've got to go in there and cast weird and do things that they don't explain on YouTube. You've got to look really funky when you cast a brook trout because you got to be stealthy. A brook trout will eat pretty much whatever you throw at them, but you got to be able to get the fly to that fish without them seeing you first. That's the secret to brook trout. I don't know fish, right? I just know what I've seen. And this is all stuff based off experience. I don't read books. I've read one book in my life. It's just one of those things. I've just been around the rivers long enough and beat my head against the wall long enough where you see these trends, patterns, structure. I'm a big fan of structure. But I'm going to go ahead and take it away again. I'm against the grain here. I find a lot of my biggest fish middle river, not on wood. Most big fish are where the food's at, okay? Forage does not sit on the bank, all right? Yeah, you'll catch a big smallie in a piece of wood. You'll catch a big brown, muskie. I've seen every big fish come out of wood. I've seen more big fish come out of the middle of a river. And it's just something I've seen over the years. We had a shad kill in October. And there were guys, I showed up. I had these two clients that I engaged on the river. And they show up every year for a yearly fly fishing trip. They really don't know how to fly fish. I had my bobber rigs rigged up. I was like, all right, guys, we're going to fish some scuds and midges today. Hop on in. We're going to get down the river. And I'm walking down to the boat, and they're like, John, they're rising everywhere. And I look up, and the whole river's rising. I'm like, what the hell's going on? It's like October, no hatches. I've been guiding this place for like 6 months straight, right? I know this place like the back of my hand. And I look up, and you see these, what the heck's going on? There were millions of shad just coming down the river, okay? Dead shad, this long, and there was a lot of them. There were 9 or 10 of them piled up in my boat where it was just parked. They just hit the boat and stopped. This is where the angler's got to change his tune, got to be able to adapt and realize I don't know everything, right? I always tell my guys, and this is me, right, going against what I say. I've done these before presentations. You got these anglers that drink a shitload of coffee in the morning. They re-rig the night before. They show up to the river with their coffee and their rod ready to go, and they got the wrong rig on. Never rig up before you get to the river. Best advice I'll ever give. Never rig up because you don't know what's happening. So I went from throwing scuds and midges to greasing freaking rabbit fur flies and floating them on the surface for the next 8 hours, right? This is where we've got to be able to adjust as the angler. I was that guy that got real excited when I woke up in the morning to go fishing. This is early on, and I'd rig up because I didn't want to have to rig, and it was going to be cold in my hands, and I get to the river, and the fish were rising. But I got an nymph rig on. I remember there were yellow drakes coming off in this Pisgah National Forest one day, and I had an indicator and 2 nymphs. I've been catching them on for like 2 months in this place. And I got down there 6:30 in the morning. I'm running down the river with my buddy. We're excited because we're young and we're into it, jacked up on coffee and euphoria. We get down there, and it's the biggest yellow drake spinner fall I've seen in my life. Here I am with my 10-foot Euro rod. Ain't got a damn clue what's going on, and it's because I didn't pay attention to what was going on. I paid attention what I wanted to at home, you know. So never rig your rod at home because you don't know what the river's doing when you get there, and then you're going to have to re-rig when you get there, right? Rig up, take your time. A lot of guys rush this process, and they don't realize that, like, you're changing the game when you do that. You're trying to force things to happen, you know. I'm an old poker player. I gambled for a living for like 15 years before guiding, right? And when I was running bad in poker and wasn't doing well, was it my fault? Was it the card's fault? Right? We got to make decisions based off of what we understand and know. I've been through this emotionally many times on the river. Fly fishing and life are the same damn thing. We just got to be able to make that. We got to be able to decide that, you know, to pick from the two and understand it. Like, hey, there was a hatch yesterday, but I'm just going to wait because you never know. Like, I'm just going to show up, put my waders on, breathe the fresh air, relax. That's why we're there. It's not supposed to be the stressful process of rushing, getting there, and catching all the fish. If you're rushing to a river because there's too many damn people on it, you need to find a new river. You ask any guide that knows me in this industry, where my boat floats and where I wade, I do not see a lot of people. And it's not because I run and don't want to be with the crowds. It's because I like it to be quiet when I'm fishing. It's just one of those things. Why the hell would I do all this, sign up for fly fishing, for it to be a chaotic mess? I'm not going to float with 40 boats when there's a 5-mile stretch. Why is the other boats not on the other 10 miles? It's because they all think the fish are, guys, if you can learn this, you can learn to fish quiet places. You know, very, I don't know, it's a simple method, but it's not. I don't know how to explain it, but I've always gone against the grain when it comes to that stuff. All right, we'll talk about this. Y'all talked about the larger fish in my intro. I am a big fish junkie. It's how I made a name for myself. It's not what my company's based off of. We are based off teaching, okay? Now, what we do when we're guiding, I'm trying to take you to the next level of angling, not the fish. I put beginners on 27-inch brown trout. That's not the answer. That sucks because the expectations for that angler on his first trip have changed for the rest of his career. Right? There's a guy, I've caught 2 31-inch browns in my career, right? And the guy that caught them, I haven't caught those fish, right? I've guided people into these fish. What I don't understand is I've never caught a 31-inch brown. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? So it's not about hunting fish for me. It's about like watching someone put in the work. So you want to catch a big fish? Let me tell you the answer to it. You better beat your head against the wall long enough to understand that you need to be humble, patient, and you need to be able to hunt. Okay? Big fish and fly fishing shouldn't even be in the same words. They're 2 different games. Guys, the big fish fishing is very different than fishing. There's a mental going on here, right? I've got guys that call me to trophy hunt. They do it every year. Same guys, same breed. These guys are okay with fishing 7 days in a row with me every year, 4 times a year, and getting skunked. What they're doing is looking for one damn bite. Now, the mental that takes for an individual to understand, like everybody wants to hold a big fish. I get it. These people are, they look, oh, it's fun. It's fun. I've seen all these people cry. I've seen all these people throw rods. I've seen all these people lose their mind on the river. Big fish will drive you crazy, okay? Pictures and Instagram will drive you crazy. I have a big Instagram presence. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Because people want to catch a big fish, and I understand. Trust me, I live for the big fish. But I also understand what it can do to people. And it can also ruin the game for people. What we need to understand is that a 6-inch wild fish, this big, is just as hard to catch as that 30-inch fish. It needs a good cast, a good presentation, and a good fly. It's the same damn fish. The only thing we got to understand is the opportunities are very different. You're going to get that one shot to that big fish. You're going to get a lot of shots at that fish. These fish, these people, all these fish come from different watersheds. Like this is a 21.5-inch brown from Pisgah. That's like a rare gem. What's crazy was that was her first time fishing that river. Okay? And if you understand the river she caught this fish on and how long it took me to catch one of those damn fish, it really pissed me off. Because it's like, man, you just high stuck that bucket and pulled out a toad on 5X when I'm over here like, I think I lost 10 or 12 of these things before I even actually landed on this river. This is early on in my career. Same thing with a smallmouth. You want to catch a big smallmouth? You have to fish perfect for 8 hours straight, and you're going to get 2 shots that day. That's the truth. You want to catch a 20-inch smallmouth, you will see 2 every day. I can guarantee if you shoot 40 feet all day for 8 hours, I will give you 2 shots at two fish that are what we would call a large fish. Trophy hunting and large fish is very, I try not to push it on people because people don't understand the mental that goes behind it. Not even that. When you hook the fish and you've put all this mental knowledge and energy into the moment you're actually in, it's on the line. And then, pow, it's gone. The meltdowns that I have seen, I am not a guy, all right, I'm not a guide, I'm a psychologist. Okay? That's what I turn into those days. That's what it turns into. So when targeting big fish, it's very simple. We need a body of water that holds them. Very simple. We need the food that feeds them. Hunting, commitment, and methods are literally all the same thing. Okay? Just understand big fish come with, you've got to commit, guys. Like, I'm not going to sit here. I could sit here and talk about, oh, you need to do this. You want to catch a big fish? You say, John, I'm ready to take a skunk today. That's what you've got to be able to say, I'm going to pay you $600, and if we catch one, we catch one. If not, we don't. And that's really what big fish fishing is. Everyone wants them, but just understand it's not what fly fishing's about. They're really cool. They're really rewarding. I've got guys like this guy on the left, bottom. That kid's 13 years old right here. He's caught more big fish in a year than I have in like 10. But he's very, I don't know, kids are really good with this sport. They're really able to pick things up, listen, learn, and attack, and just kind of, some people are really lucky too, you know. You know, I like the guys that hunt the big fish, but just understand, I'm not going to give you a secret because there is no secret to big fish. What you need to understand is those fish come with time, energy, and good angling. That's it. And I don't want to end it on that because I like kind of bash the big fish, but I do love the big fish. Just understand that I know what it can do to people. It's not good for the sport. It's one of those things that kind of ruin the sport for you if you let it. But appreciate y'all having me tonight, guys. I got some cards up here. Y'all can hit us up. Little flyers with my name and number on it. Email me, call me, text me. I'm an open book. I'm just really grateful y'all have me up here tonight. Thank you.